Thank you for your presentation. Let's now go to Module 2 of this program.
The art and science of scenario visioning and planning is now essential for world-class performance and excellence. In another ITC module, I discussed the uses of scenarios, the development process, and how to integrate scenario planning into management practice. Learning procedures and principles are nice, but concrete examples can help just as much. I will now talk about 3 examples that I've done with my clients, all in different industries. For reasons of confidentiality, I will not be mentioning the names of those particular companies. The first is in the game development and hosting industry, the second in the security technology field, and the third an investment company in the Middle East. The game developer is a large multinational corporation who has been in the gaming industry for a number of years. Because of rapidly changing conditions in technology, their time horizon was only 5 years. The trends include the gaming market attracting increasing number of casual players playing games that do not require a dedicated device to use. Also, core gamers, whose numbers have not changed and will be continually flat, are becoming interested in a cross-platform experience, where the games they play are available on desktops, laptops, tablets, and smartphones. After considerable discussion, 2 drivers were selected: internet neutrality and in-house versus outsourced game development. The first driver, internet neutrality, requires some explanation. At the moment, all traffic routed through the backbone of the internet is treated equally. That is, whether it's a Google search, a BitTorrent upload, and streaming an MP3 file, all bits have equal speed. This is the current policy of the United States. Content providers such as Google, Netflix, and game hosters tend to benefit from this arrangement. An alternative is tiered access, where traffic is prioritized based upon how much content providers are willing to pay. The more is paid, the faster their traffic goes. Infrastructure providers benefit from this, as they can have increased profits from content providers paying this extra fee. The second driver is the degree that games are developed in-house by captive studios versus encouraging game development by independents. Captive studios offer the advantage of being mandated to develop certain games that may not be immediately profitable, but serves the long-term interests of the brand development. On the other hand, there are ongoing burden costs, and game developers can become ossified in their thinking by always following the company line. Independent studios, on the other hand, do their own thing, can create games outside the box, and provide a variety of talent on demand. Their initial upfront costs may be high and may require non-standard support to assist their development. It was mandated by corporate strategy that the company will continue its focus on the core gamer market and only pursue casual gamers to persuade them to become core. Imagine then that there might be 4 scenarios developed. The first, net neutrality with in-house game development. The second, net neutrality with game development outsourced. The third, tiered internet access with in-house game development. And fourth, tiered access with outsourced game development. Though I can't get into detail about these scenarios as part of this presentation, you can imagine that the tiered access scenarios would not be to their advantage unless they were willing to increase their structural costs and raise prices. This increase in cost may allow for less capital available for in-house development, thus forcing the company to rely more on outsourced game developers. On the other hand, independent game developers in international locations with an expanding core gamer market would be at an advantage, especially if their respective countries persisted with net neutrality. In my second example, a technology security company a few years ago had been the first to market for its product. Unfortunately, they decided not to sell directly to clients, chose a CEO too technically focused, and had a very fuzzy marketing image. They lost significant market share, and their investors were ready to shut the company in the next year or two. In response to this, they decided a strategic retreat was necessary. We developed two scenarios with them. The first focused on continued transition from an analog to digital versions of their product, and that there would be continued industry consolidation. The second scenario was actually the same as the first, except that the transition from analog to digital and industry consolidation would happen at a quicker pace. Their time horizon was 18 months to 2 years. In reviewing the scenarios and gaps in the market, they realized there were a number of opportunities to exploit, including helping those transition from analog to digital, and to offer a more integrated offering not yet available on the market. I'm delighted to say they now have had 3 sequential profitable quarters. In my third example, a Middle East investment company had primarily invested in real estate and real estate-related services. They wished to diversify their holdings so their investment returns would even out over time, in a strategy designed to be counter-cyclical to their current holdings. We developed 4 scenarios for them, with the drivers being the price of oil, fluctuating based on demand and the availability of biofuels, and the degree of social unrest. Their time horizon was 15 years. In this case, the scenarios developed had an almost unique effect. Given they wanted to invest in the industrial sector inside the country, they realized that the board of the company needed to change, as they had no experience on the board in the sectors in which they would invest. Additionally, the scenarios guided them to invest in sectors that would do well in times of social unrest. As you can see in these practical examples, the kind of scenarios developed depends upon the nature of the organization and their current needs. Scenario planning need not be a complex process, but it requires good information, a willing group to work with that information, and good facilitation to coordinate their diverse opinions. Organizations have so many possible ways to react and respond to these scenarios. In considering what changes to make, organizations should consider 6 balance points. If management is conservative in risk-taking, the decisions that they will make will reflect that. On the other hand, should management be less risk-averse and the need for change is high, the organization may balance their decisions for greater effectiveness or greater failure. These 6 decision points and balance points include: first, how much change is needed; second, the degree to which they will stay in their current markets versus go into new ones; third, whether they should use their old traditional methods of analyzing company data or go with the more big data approach; fourth, the degree to which they will continue producing what they know versus creating something new; fifth, whether they wish to keep their informal and partly automated systems or thoroughly remake their IT and HR systems; and sixth, and finally, the degree to which new leadership will be necessary for the company to succeed in the future. How much change is needed in an organization cannot be determined by a simple equation. First of all, it seems obvious that the larger the gap between how the organization operates now and how they need to operate in a certain scenario, the larger amount of change is needed. Unfortunately, however, senior management often denies that and institute a half-hearted measure that is at best makes only modest changes. To put it another way, there is a difference between what change is needed and what changes senior management is willing to make. What an outside consultant can see may be different than the consensus of senior management. The converse can happen also. Senior management may greatly desire to enter a new market, perhaps because it is new and exciting, or perhaps everyone is doing it. Analysis, on the other hand, might suggest that this is a bad idea. Many companies have entered the Chinese market, for example, seeing only 1 billion consumers with pockets of money. Almost as many companies have found themselves burned in the same market. This leads us to our second balance point: known versus unknown markets. If your organization has high development costs in creating new products, an easy way to expand is to sell what you already have in new markets. If there exists a relatively undeveloped market in demographic or geographic domains for your product, expansion into them sounds easy. Unfortunately, it is rarely that simple. There may be nuances to the market to which your organization is completely blind, and so will significantly impair your sales. For example, a well-known California company in the lubricant business tried to expand into China. With little market analysis, their sales were poor, to say the least. Being a one-product company, they could not easily develop a new product, so they were initially at a loss. After focus groups and market analysis, however, they discovered that they could repackage their product as a rust preventer, and sales rose dramatically. A related balance point is whether to stick with your existing products and offerings, or whether to develop new ones. Innovation in products or services can be thought of in 3 categories: incremental innovation, radical innovation, and process innovation. Incremental innovation modestly changes or improves the configuration, features, and capability of what an organization produces. It may become slightly more reliable, add a feature with little or no cost, or come out in a different size or color. This is perhaps the easiest for an organization to do, but incremental innovation usually means only an incremental sales increase. Radical innovation, such as creating a whole new category of product, is much rarer and also tends to have a higher end cost to create, as well as the greatest potential for new company growth. The iPod was certainly not such a product. Feature-wise, it was a little different from its competitors. And what was the radical innovation was the legal agreement with music producers that allowed consumers to listen to their favorite tunes legally and at a low price. Process innovation, on the other hand, allows creation or delivery of a product in a more efficient way. The invention of the smartphone, for instance, allowed people easy access to their email and all the knowledge of the internet. Back in the 20th century, refrigerated boxcars allowed beer to be transported long distances and encouraged the rise of mega producers of beer. Regardless of the type of innovation, an organization must decide the degree to which scenarios require innovation and how to invest appropriately. 2 other balance points are closely related: the change from using intuition to using analytics and big data. One of the revolutions that came from internet use is the availability of huge amount of data, from what books you buy to what websites you visit. What is now called big data allows organizations to sift through this data and come up with meaningful relationships. Unfortunately, management does not take advantage of these advances because they have kept to the habit about making decisions with their intuition and their past experience. These subjective tools are especially useful when the future will be much like the past and easily predictable. However, some of the scenarios that might happen are not in this category. Big data might help. An example comes to mind. Swiffers, the disposable pads that are used to clean floors, are almost always used by women for that purpose. The company who makes them wanted to expand their use by changing their marketing. By conducting focus groups, they realized that men are a potential market for this product, and it could be repackaged as a way to clean car interiors. The use of big data and measurement in general is not just an application of new software. That is the easy part. The hard part is encouraging senior management to use such data and to use this new way of thinking as part of the organization. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, the balance between existing and new leadership must be addressed. Should certain scenarios come about, existing leadership might not be up to transitioning the organization, nor able or willing to succeed if and when it comes about. For example, if senior management only has experience in one country, and a scenario suggests that entering international markets is the only way to survive, their membership must change. On the other hand, a scenario suggesting a time of significant decline in sales and emphasis on efficiency, senior management with skills in downsizing might be more appropriate. Whether senior management is willing to make this change in its ranks is always an open question. In conclusion, a new mandate for success is being able to react intelligently to the change dynamics we face today at the local, regional, and global level with their increasing levels of complexity. Integrating scenario planning to your change strategy will ensure that you and your organization perform with excellence and world-class standards. Thank you.
Thank you again, Dr. Chaudron. Let's begin with our question and answer session. We have the first caller from Universidad Ricardo Palma in Lima, Peru. Thank you for participating. The question is excellence in performance with world-class standards the solution for sustainable success of organizations today and in the future?
Yes, but I think that achievement of world-class standards is a gradual process, out of reach of most organizations not willing to invest the time and effort and resources required in each case. They first need to tackle the basics of delivering good service with what resources they currently have. Only until they can consistently achieve these basics can they really begin to think about world-class performance.